Hey everyone, CWD Music here. I'm CWD, and this is going to be another addition to the segment that kind of sort of changes names every now and again, the monthly album roundup, where pretty much I go through a good chunk of albums that came out this past November that I gave a listen to, and I'm going to give these brief little opinions about all of them. I do want to apologize for not uploading any of the reviews that I said I was going to do. If you didn't watch that update, go watch it, but you can kind of skim through that since it's just 10 minutes of me kind of rambling about everything you've probably already heard about when it comes to what happens with this channel. I do want to note that in December I'm going to be trying to polishing the old gears and trying to get reviews back in order. I'm hoping it's not going to be a repeat of last year where I said, oh yeah, reviews are finally going to come back, and I did reviews for about 3 months, and then it just dissipated from there. During June, I found myself being able to establish a daily routine on a weekday basis, and I'm going to try to channel that whenever I do reviews, so hopefully that works out. So like I said, in December I'm going to be warming up when it comes to doing album reviews. The first review I'm going to try to get out when it comes out in this Friday is the new Prynce record. It's 4 hours long. But as you guys know, if you've watched my Autechre review, you guys know that I'm not going to turn down such a challenge. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get this roundup on the road. For an album that's called The Thrill of It All, there's no thrill of it at all. Holy hell yes, a Converge album! Y'all, I have been hyped for a new Converge album since I got into Converge like several years back. I was wondering when this thing was going to come out, and lo and behold it did this year, and I'm glad. It's vicious, it's visceral. There's quite a bit of moodiness to this album, which I think is really interesting for Converge, and the album just kicks so much ass. And it's in the 4th run of being my favorite metal album of the year, no question about it. Give this a try if you're a fan of Converge already, if you mourn the loss of Dillinger Escape Plan, if you're into that sort of technical, mathcore-ish, math rock-ish type of post-hardcore and metal music. This is definitely up your alley if you're into that sort of thing. I loved Armand Hammer's previous record, Race Music. If you have not tried that album out yet, go try it out. Yeah, that album felt a little lengthy, and there's probably some meat that could have been cut out, but Billy Woods and Gizzard were killing it on that album, and the beats were really great too. I just really couldn't say no to returning to that album over and over at the time. So, hearing that there was a new Armand Hammer record, I was really excited for it, but unfortunately, I can't really say that it follows up Race Music well, or very well at least. I do like this thing. I definitely thought it was good, but I didn't think it was all that memorable. Billy Woods and Gizzard are still doing their thing. There's a Quelle Chris feature on this album that is pretty cool, and the beats are cavernous, but there isn't really enough to what the album does that saves the album from being as lackluster in comparison to what Race Music was, unfortunately. But still, if you are an underground hip-hop fan, if you are looking for hard-hitting and gritty hip-hop that takes no prisoners and more focuses on bars and all that and is abstract and at times direct, then definitely give this album a try. I didn't really do any reviews from June through August, unfortunately, so I didn't necessarily have a place to be able to say what I thought about the past 2 King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard albums I dropped. Now, y'all know if you've watched my review for Flying Microtonal Banana, absolutely loved that album. The Murder of the Universe I thought was good, but unfortunately that album was more like a really long jam than it was a concrete type of album. Plus it reminded me a lot of Nonagon Infinity, an album that I loved, but it doesn't really push the envelope from the sound that they established with that album. The album they dropped, I think it was called Sketches of Brunswick, that they did with Mile High Club. That album was really interesting. It definitely felt like they were going for a more smoother, sleeker, psychedelic sound with that project. Kind of funky in a sense. I thought that was cool, but not really something I loved. This one right here is what I expect out of a King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard album. I absolutely love how progressive the album is. I love how hard-hitting it is and how just upfront it is. And one of the best things about this album is that it's free. Yes, it's free. You can download it for free. There's a post on their Facebook page or website that actually tells you how you can craft this album into a CD or a vinyl of some sort, and I thought that's really cool. But ultimately you can download it for free. They've basically given us literally an album. Not in the same way U2 gave us an album back in 2014 with Songs of Innocence, but more so saying, yeah, this album is free, get it if you want to, it's yours, all you gotta do is claim it. So that's really awesome. So if you are a fan of psychedelic rock, experimental rock, progressive rock, and you're looking for something that is fresh and invigorating, then definitely give not only this album a try, but everything King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard has done a try. They are killing it in rock music right now. They are easily one of the best rock bands of this decade. My first experience with Cyhi the Prynce might be different from someone that is super into hip-hop is. I'm not exactly that invested in one single genre, so I never really was on the ear for every single mixtape that Cyhi the Prynce dropped ever since he got signed on to the XXL freshman class back in 2011, I think? 2011 or 2012. So my only experience with Cyhi the Prynce was when he featured on Kanye West's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, the song So Appalled. And he had a really cool and charismatic verse on that track. So when I heard that he was finally going to drop a new album, I was definitely intrigued and was for sure going to give this a try. And while I did end up liking at least a little over half of what the album had in store, I unfortunately was kind of disappointed with the result. I mean, it's definitely mostly solid. I definitely see what it is Cyhi the Prynce has got going on for him. I like his bars. I like his flow and his presence all across the album for the most part. But there's points where there's like auto-tune singing, there's features that don't really add up to a solid song for me. Even Schoolboy Q, holy crap, I love Schoolboy Q, but he just did not work on that song. And I have an admiration for Travis Scott, but on the closing track, it didn't really work all that well on that song either. There just wasn't enough of what Cyhi the Prynce was doing that made me want to return to the album over and over and over again. But if you have been looking forward to a new Cyhi the Prynce album, and this is news to you that he actually did drop an album, definitely check it out. Definitely give this a try, or a couple tries. You'll get something out of it for sure. This is pretty much my first Charlotte Gainsbourg record, and I'm definitely pleased with how this album turned out. From what I understand, since most of the lyrics on this album are in French, so I can't really comprehend the lyrical component of the album for the most part, the album is about the process of grief, more so about, from what I understand, her father-in-law or brother. Correct me on that in the comments if I'm incorrect. And I think what she does on this album is magnificent, pretty much. I like the sort of sleek and dream popish atmosphere the album has going on for it. There's kind of a French house kind of thing going on, which would make sense since I believe one half of Daft Punk lended co-production to this album. And one of the things that really caught my ear was at around like the very end of the album, there's this really epic sort of instrumentation being done over this little girl. I don't know if that's like her daughter or sister or something, singing the alphabet in French. I thought that was awesome. It's like a hidden track, which I thought was interesting. It's weird to know that there's still hidden tracks being in existence in the year 2017. So yeah, if you are looking for a pop record that is pretty idiosyncratic in a way, it's pretty ethereal, sleek, at moments kind of sensual, then definitely check this album out. It's really good in my opinion. My only experience with Electric Wizard is similar to a lot of people's only experiences with Electric Wizard. It's the album Dope Throne. Wonderful, wonderful stoner sludge album if you haven't tried that out. And if you have the sort of auditory physique and resilience to unapologetic noise and straight up sludge over the course of an hour. So I haven't really been able to listen to a whole lot of what Electric Wizard has put out apart from that album. I have heard that their previous couple of albums, they sounded similar to Black Sabbath, a lot of other doom metal bands back in the 90s. And with this album, I could definitely see that they are channeling their inner Black Sabbath here. It's like they listened to quite a bit of the album Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, or Master of Reality, for sure. There's this sort of garage rockish blues rock thing that they are doing on this album that is reminiscent of Black Sabbath on this project. Basically, this is not the same band as the band on Dope Throne, pretty much. And if you are going into this album thinking it's going to be similar to Dope Throne, you'll be disappointed. As for what I think about this album, I thought it was good. I definitely thought that the execution was really good, but unfortunately, I can't say I love it. I think the production is lacking in certain ways. I found quite a bit of repetitiveness to what the album does, which is weird since I like them for their doomish sound on Dope Throne. But unfortunately, there just wasn't enough on the album to save it, in my opinion, from me thinking it was anything other than just pretty good. But if you are a heavy metal fan, if you do like doom metal, sludge metal, if you do like music inspired by Black Sabbath, not just in terms of broadness, like every metal band in existence is pretty much inspired by Black Sabbath in one way or another, but like directly inspired by Black Sabbath, then definitely give this a try. You'll get something out of it. Man, oh man, these EPs Led Zeppelin have been dropping are great. I cannot wait for an album. Oh, no, this isn't Led Zeppelin. Shit! One of my favorite reviews that I can honestly say I've done was the Body and Full of Hell's album One Day You Will Ache Like I Ache that I did in March of last year. It also ended up being one of my favorite albums of the year, miraculously enough. That album grew on me really quick, partly because it was short and most of the songs were fantastic, with the exception of that Leonard Cohen cover that they did. So I had no reason not to anticipate this album in particular. I definitely was excited for the idea of another The Body and Full of Hell record. And they improved on their partnership. When I did my review for One Day You Will Ache Like I Ache, I said throughout the review that oh, it's just obviously another creative session for Full of Hell, and they're just going to go on and move on to other things, and that's why the evolution on their album Trumpeting Ecstasy that they dropped this year was the way it was. But no, it definitely sounds like that they are actually legitimately working with each other on actual songs, and that's what I wanted from One Day You Will Ache Like I Ache. With this album, they're not really doing a conventional or traditional grindcore or heavy metal or anything like that album. They are blurring the lines between metallic and noise music. It's incredible, actually. One of the moments where I heard that they made a whole song that sounded like Noise House, it makes me even more excited to hear what they could be doing next, because they need to keep partnering with each other. They need to keep doing that, because the music is just wonderful, and if they can just keep being this weird, if they can keep being this indulgent and creative, then there's no telling what they could do for metal music in the future. Yeah, this is my first Godflesh record, and I'm kind of kicking myself for that since I've heard so many things about the album Street Sweeper, I think it's called. I heard that Street Sweeper is like one of the greatest heavy metal albums of all time and you need to listen to it. And I'm definitely curious about that album in particular. This album doesn't really make me that interested in what Godflesh is doing post Street Sweeper because it just sounds like 2000s Nine Inch Nails with more guttural screaming. For sure, the instrumentals are solid. I definitely found a lot of abrasion to what Godflesh is doing, but unfortunately there really isn't that much in terms of freshness or anything that interesting when it comes to this particular Godflesh record. But if you are a Godflesh fan, if you do like industrial metal or industrial rock, definitely give this album a try. You'll probably like this a lot more than I did. I didn't really find that much interesting in this album either. I mean, I love 90s Oasis for sure, even if the album they dropped after What's the Story, Morning Glory, the name escapes me for some reason, was really abrasive and incredibly unnecessarily overproduced and compressed to the point where it was for a while one of the loudest albums ever made. But still, I definitely have an admiration for Oasis, so I thought I would check out what Noel Gallagher was doing on a solo front. And unfortunately, I can't really say that they're doing anything that's that interesting. It kind of reminds me of the Bleachers album that dropped in June, I think. Just a lot of overly produced and not really all that interesting or charismatic vocals. The instrumentals are okay, but they don't really add much to anything. Not really anything to what Noel Gallagher is doing on this album that makes me interested in going back to the other two. But if you are an Oasis fan, definitely give this a try and maybe give Liam's album a try. You might get something out of it, you might not. It doesn't sound anything like Oasis to me, so you know, it's a coin toss from there. I am gonna go out on a limb and say this is the best album she has ever dropped. And that's a ballsy thing for me to say, but I've heard all of her records. I've heard every single one of them. And one day I'm gonna do a whole video where I rank all of Bjork's albums thus far. If she drops another album after I do that video is just gonna stay where it is, and y'all can just do your own little assumptions from there when I review the album after Utopia, if there is going to be another one, and hopefully there is. But I am digressing. I find a lot of what Bjork does on this album, if not most, if not nearly all of what Bjork does on this album, just this big amalgamation of everything she's ever done. Each album, in my opinion, has been Bjork slowly yet quickly, simultaneously, I don't know how that works, but it does, discovering who she is as a solo artist. And around 2000 she figured that out, and with this she's taking all of her lyrical nuance, all of her interesting and creative ideas when it comes to making a blissful album, all of this, and for sure creating one of the best albums of this decade, and easily, in my opinion, the best album she's ever made. Just a little short above Vespertine, for sure, which is, for the longest time, my favorite Bjork record. Arca is on this thing, and I definitely find a lot of creative treasure within Arca and Bjork. It's pretty remarkable, if you ask me. The album is pretty much a really grand and beautiful, flute-heavy sort of marriage between electronic music and classical music that just works, and the lyrics and the themes on that album are beautiful too, pretty much revolving around feminism and the dating process, because she blatantly said that this album is her dating record since it's following the album Bonacura, which was a really tragic and yet wonderful breakup record. And I could go on and on and on about this album, but Needless to say, I love this album, and it's my favorite album of the month for sure, and definitely going to be within my top 10 by the end of the year. If you are a Bjork fan, this is a no-brainer for you. If you are looking for electronic music, pop music that is pushing the envelope, if you're looking for something that is different and weird, yet simultaneously beautiful and gorgeous and intricate, then definitely check this album out. You'll definitely get something out of it for sure. So those were my thoughts on albums that I listened to this past November. I'm pretty sure I missed a lot of them. I know I missed out on Taylor Swift's record, but it's not on streaming services, and I don't want to support her by buying her music. So there you go. What other albums do you think I should check out that came out in November? I'm pretty sure there's a lot of it. And what do you think of those records? And what did you think of the records that I listened to? And what did you think of the ones that I loved? I'm sure you probably hated at least one or two of them. This is CWD Music here, signing off.